Alright, this is John Cole of OKRAW.com to another exciting episode for you. In this episode, I want to talk all about raw fermented foods, right? These are fermented foods that you could make yourself or are available in the refrigerated section. Some fermented foods in the refrigerated section have been pasteurized and they may contain significantly less benefits. For that reason, I encourage you guys to make your own fermented foods. I've done videos with Sandor Katz and other fermentation experts on my gardening channel and on this channel. To share with you guys more about the power of fermented foods. I've been a long believer in the power of fermented foods, and I'm glad that a brand new study just came out about it and its benefits of fermented foods compared to fiber. Because everybody says, oh, fiber's so good, for our microbiome and all this stuff, but actually it turns out that fermented foods may be even better, because not only does it have fiber, it has also the bacteria, some prebiotics probably, some postbiotics in there, and additional nutrients that is made in the fermentation that may have not been in there in the first place. So as you guys can see, I have some fermented foods here, and I want to show you guys what they are. This is my kombucha that I make, homemade kombucha. This is my homegrown radishes that have been fermented. This is actually hot peppers that I fermented. This is actually some purple rice I fermented. This is actually jicama that I fermented, and this is my sauerkraut from last winter that I fermented. Now I'm not going to tell you guys how much fermented foods to eat. I think everybody is individual, and here's the thing, one of the reasons why I don't like fermented foods is that it can be very high in sodium, especially if you guys are buying them yourself from the store. They can be extremely high in sodium, and let's not kid ourselves. To me, sodium is not a health food. I'll put a link down below to a video I made. Salt is not a health food. While we do need sodium in our diets, it's my opinion that we can get all the sodium we need from our diet if we are eating healthfully, right? So we do not need the extra sodium. So you got to watch it when you guys are eating fermented foods. Some of them may contain lots of sodium unless you make them yourself. My, kombucha has no sodium added. Some of these have very little sodium added. I might add a little bit. Now here's the thing, sodium is not required to get fermentation to happen. So you can ferment things without the salt. Most people put in the salt because it tastes good, and then it'll basically keep the vegetables a certain texture and may help the ferment along a little bit and select for certain microbes. But I interviewed Sandor Katz and he said salt is not required. So I don't want you guys to put salt in if you guys don't want to. Of course, if you guys are not making your own ferments and you're stuck buying ferments at the store, then you're going to be stuck with the salt. So in that case, you might want to, reduce your consumption and not eat too many fermented foods, because it's going to add a lot of sodium to your diet, which I don't think is healthy. Let's go ahead and get into the study. The study is called Gut Microbiota: Targeted Diets Modulate Human Immune Status. Link is down below. This is originally purchased in the publication Cell 2021, August 5th. So it actually literally just came out. So I'm going to read what happened in the study. For the study, 36 healthy adults were randomly assigned to a 10-week diet that was either high in fermented foods or high in fiber. The researchers found that those in the fermented group, which included foods such as yogurt, kefir, fermented cottage cheese, kimchi, and other fermented vegetables, vegetable brine drinks, and kombucha, saw an overall increase in microbiome diversity. In addition, 4 types of immune cells showed less activation in the fermented food group. The level of 19 inflammatory proteins measured in blood samples also decreased. One of these proteins, interleukin-6, has been linked to conditions such as rheumatoid arthritis, type 2 diabetes, and chronic stress. By contrast, in the high fiber group, none of the 19 inflammatory markers saw a noticeable decrease. Microbiome diversity also saw little impact compared to the fermented diet group. It almost makes fiber sound like it's bad. I don't know exactly what kind of fiber they fed to study participants. So that being said, the high fiber wasn't that bad. It says the high fiber diet increased microbiome encoded glycan degrading carbohydrate and active enzymes despite stable microbial community diversity. Although cytokine response score primary outcome was unchanged, 3 distinct immunological trajectories in the high fiber consumer corresponded to baseline microbiota diversity. The conclusion is fermented foods may be valuable in countering the decreased microbiome diversity that's present in America today and increased inflammation perseverance in the industrialized society. So it's actually recommending just normal people eat fermented foods. I would also encourage them to eat fiber as well. But I think fermented foods are critical, and I want you guys to give this a reminder to you guys, because there's some camps in raw foods that believe fermented foods are rotten foods and are not good for us and are toxic to our bodies, right? They could teach that if they want, and they could believe that, but I look towards some of the science. Fermented foods has been eaten for thousands of years. It's been ways that cultures before they had refrigerators have preserved and eaten their foods, especially some fermented foods like natto, which is fermented whole soybeans, no salt or nothing added, have vitamin K2 that can be deficient in a vegan diet. I think there are so many benefits to fermented foods, and I wanted to make this video as just a reminder, to include some fermented foods, in your diet as much as you feel necessary. And of course, I want you guys to do low salt. Now, one of the things that I've learned about fermented foods is, you can see I have all different kinds of fermented foods here. I don't just eat sauerkraut each and every day. Because here's the thing, number one, in the study they use different kinds of fermented foods from, even things like dairy, cottage cheese, and kefir, and yogurt. These things can also be made in a vegan version. I make my own coconut kefir. I make my own coconut yogurt as well. You can make nut and seed fermented cheeses as well. I have my own almond cheese that I made myself. It's actually quite good. It's just basically almonds with water soaked, and you could add some culture, but I just did a spontaneous ferment. There are plenty of books on fermentation. I would recommend the book by Sandor Katz. He's one cool cat, and literally wrote the Bible on all kinds of different fermented foods from literally around the world, and how these were eaten in different places. I've had so many different I've been to fermentation festivals. You can check some videos on this YouTube channel actually for that. But I would encourage you guys to eat some fermented foods along with diversifying your diet in different kinds of fibers. This study didn't say the fiber was good. Increasing your fiber can increase your short-chain fatty acids, and there's other reasons to include fiber besides just your immune status. But especially in this day and age, I think having a strong immune system is important, and not having a more inflammatory immune system that's going to react violently and have a cytokine storm or whatever can be quite important. So that's why I have been including fermented foods in my diet for many years now. I might even just ramp it up a little bit. Now, another thing I want to mention is that fermented foods in the store, those are a world difference depending on the brand that is making them to the ones you make at home. For example, like a GT's kombucha to me is sugar water compared to my kombucha that tastes more like vinegar. So I want you guys to watch out if you guys are getting sweetened beverages. You could still taste the sugar in, that's not fully fermented. I'm sure there will be some benefits to that, but my goal when eating and drinking fermented foods is to get the fermentation byproducts and not get the sugar in it, especially if it's like some kind of beverage. So once again, I want to encourage you guys to make it yourself, so that you know what exactly is in there, because we cannot trust industry to do it for us, because their goal is to sell a lot of stuff and make it taste good. And my goal when I do ferments, some of these ferments are quite long ferments, and at different stages in a ferment, the ferment changes. So there's different properties, and I want to encourage you guys to have a diversity of ferments at different stages. But more importantly, I want you guys to diversify the food source. So you can see I have all these are different ferments that I've done, right? None of these are the same. And here's the thing I learned from a fermentation expert is that every different kind of food will attract different kinds of microbes. All my ferments are, aside from the kombucha here, are spontaneous ferments. They just happen spontaneously from the bacteria on the food. A lot of this food actually I grew myself, that are bacteria in my garden that now just I'm putting a good environment. And here's my tip. I want to encourage you guys to get these vacuum fermentation lids. They're available at like Amazon or whatever, and there could be as cheap as like $12 for a pack of 4 plus a little vacuum pump. These lids have saved my butt so many times, and these are the lids that you could have successful ferments every single time. You just got to make sure you keep it pumped up a little bit. So it puts a vacuum on there, because if oxygen gets in there, that's when mold grows. So you can see none of these ferments has any mold. So I think that's pretty much it for my video today. Nice short and quick video about the benefits of fermented foods. And I want you guys to include more fermented raw foods and hopefully even make them yourself and look into it more. I am still a staunch proponent of eating some amounts of fermented foods. Many times I like to add fermented foods into a soup or salad, just a whole bunch of fermented food, mixed it up in there. Sometimes I'll just add it to my salad dressing, then blend that up, and it'll have a nice zing flavor for the dressing. So figure out ways you could use them and get them into you. So that's pretty much it for this episode. If you guys enjoyed this episode, learning more about fermented foods versus fiber, please be sure to give this video a thumbs up. Also, please be sure to share this video with somebody else you could think it could help. Also, be sure to click that subscribe button right down below so you don't miss out on my new and upcoming episodes. I'll come out every 5 to 7 days. You never know where I'll show up or what you'll be learning on my YouTube channel. And make sure you click the little bell so you get notified as many videos come out. And finally, be sure to check my past episodes. The past episodes are a wealth of knowledge. Over 600 episodes at this time on this YouTube channel dedicated to teach you guys all about eating raw fruits and vegetables and other raw foods that can be quite beneficial for you. So with that, my name is John Kohler with OKRAW.com. We'll see you next time, and until then, remember, keep eating your fresh fruits and vegetables, even fermented ones. They're always the best.